Assalamu alaikum students. This is Saima Shehzad. Today I am going to introduce a very interesting topic, figures of speech, which is totally different from parts of speech. Here are the learning outcomes of today's session. Introduction to figures of speech, difference between literal and figurative language, introduction to imagery, simile, metaphor, alliteration and personification, identification of figures of speech in a poem. I have written a sentence. It's raining cats and dogs. Do you really believe that? Of course not. It has nothing to do with cats, dogs, or any animal falling from the sky. It is just a figure of speech. A figure of speech is a departure from the ordinary form of expression or the ordinary course of ideas in order to produce a greater effect. Now, in this slide, you will learn about the difference between literal and figurative language. In simple words, literal language means exactly what it says. Figurative language uses similes, metaphors, personification, etc. to describe something, often through comparison with something different. There are 5 types of figures of speech: imagery, simile, metaphor, alliteration, and personification. In this slide, you will learn more about figures of speech. Imagery. When a writer uses imagery, the descriptive writing helps to create a picture or image. It means imagery relates to mental image. Simile. It compares two unlike things using like or as. For example, they fought like cats and dogs. She is slow as turtle. Let me explain. In example 1, fighting of cats and dogs is compared with the way they fought. As you know, turtle is famous for its slow movement. So, in the second example, the movement of a girl is compared with a turtle. Metaphor. It is about an implied comparison between two unlike things that actually have something important in common without using like or as. For example, Mike is a teddy bear. Let me explain. We all know teddy bear is famous for its cuteness and fluffy appearance. In the same way, Mike's physical appearance is compared with teddy bear. Alliteration. It is a repetition of beginning consonant sounds. For example, don't drink and drive. Let me explain. It is the repetition of same letter or sounds. For example, letter D in don't, drink and drive. Personification. It occurs when the author or the speaker gives human characteristics to non-human objects. For example, the trees bowed and waved to me in the wind. Here, the tree is being given the human trait or characteristic, that is, waving and bowing. There are 5 types of imageries. Those that you can see, listen, smell, taste, or touch. Now pause the video and identify examples of sight imageries in the video. Robert Frost uses a lot of imagery in stopping by woods on a snowy evening. List all the concrete images in the poem. Then explain how they appeal to senses. Pause the video and try to identify the imageries. Okay, let me help you. Examples of sight imagery are woods, village, snow, farmhouse, horse, darkest, evening, and all other words highlighted in green color. Now let's look at the examples of hearing imageries. Pause the video and see if you can find some. Hearing imageries include words highlighted in blue color. For example, harness, bells a shake. Metaphor. Now let's discuss metaphors, which compare two different things that have something in common. The words highlighted in green in the fourth stanza are all metaphors. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. We could argue that the lovely woods is a metaphor for beauty, imagination, or anything that might distract us from that every day. There is even a hint of danger about the woods, for they are dark and deep, suggesting no return. Miles to go might be a metaphor for life. Promises suggest obligations and responsibilities in life. Sleep may signify death. Personification. I've written two stanzas on the left side. Try to identify all the possible personifications. Pause the video and try to identify. How is the horse portrayed with human characteristics? Find the evidence. The horse is described to be thinking and asking and seems to have more sense than his master. It is disagreeing with his rider's decision to stop by the woods. Why? The night is coming on, it is starting to snow, and they have a long journey ahead, which means miles to go. Now let's discuss the last example of figures of speech, which is alliteration. Alliteration is a form of repetition of the same sounds at the beginning of at least two or more words near each other in a poem. Let's do an example. I have written the first stanza of this poem. Whose woods these are, I know, I think I know. His horse is in village though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. Which sounds are alliterated in stanza 1 of stopping by woods on a snowy evening? I have highlighted them in green. For example, whose woods are alliterated as they have a common letter W in them that make the same sound. With this, we finish today's lesson. We learned about 5 different figures of speech. I strongly recommend you to read a book or newspaper and try to find more examples of figures of speech. Allah Hafiz and take